The stars burned red over Virellia, a world of silver sands and violet skies. For centuries, the Virelian Empire ruled this sector of the Orion Arm. Proud, ancient, unchallenged. When humanity arrived in their territory, they didn't come as conquerors, but as explorers. The Virelians didn't believe them. To the Empress's daughter, Princess Aurelia Virile, humans were primitive upstarts, noisy, arrogant apes in metal shells who believed courage could compensate for weakness. When the first Terran defense fleet entered their system, she watched from her flagship and scoffed. "They bleed like any animal," she said. "Let them learn humility before the throne of Virile." But the humans did not kneel. They fought. And when they fought, the galaxy trembled. Chapter 1. The Mocking of Lieutenant Rion Hale. Lieutenant Rion Hale, Terran Marine Corps, 3rd Battalion, had been sent to Virellia Prime as part of a peace delegation after a brutal 6-month skirmish. Peace, they said, but it felt more like surrender. He stood on the marble floors of the Imperial Hall, armor polished, rifle unarmed, surrounded by guards whose armor shimmered like liquid sapphire. And in the center, lounging on a throne of light, sat Princess Aurelia, radiant, mocking, and deadly. "This is your representative," she said, her voice echoing across the chamber. "One human. My mother sends armies, and Earth sends a soldier." Rion didn't bow. He looked her in the eyes. "One soldier was all we needed to reach your gates, Princess." A whisper ran through the court. Outrage, disbelief. But Aurelia only smirked. Bold words for a species that still burns its own world for fuel. "Bold enough to survive it," Rion replied. The princess laughed, a sound like silver breaking. She waved her hand dismissively. "We shall see how long your boldness lasts when the Empire resumes its march." And thus began the uneasy truce between humanity and the Virelian Empire, a truce written in arrogance and tested by pride. Chapter 2, Shadows over Virellia. Weeks passed. Rion remained on Virellia as Earth's liaison to the royal court, enduring constant scorn. The princess seemed to take delight in testing him, sparring him with her elite guards, ridiculing Terran customs, calling him the ape with a gun. But Rion never flinched. He trained every morning in the palace courtyard, rain or shine. His movements sharp and mechanical. Slowly, the guards who had laughed began to watch, then to mimic. Even Aurelia noticed, though she would never admit it. One night, as the twin moons rose over the crystal spires, an explosion tore through the palace district. The alarms wailed. The Krell Dominion, an enemy long thought defeated, had launched a surprise orbital strike. The Empress was caught in the blast. Aurelia stood frozen as her mother's chamber collapsed in flame. Rion didn't hesitate. He charged into the inferno. Chapter 3. The Human Who Wouldn't Die. Flames licked the walls. Shards of molten crystal rained down like fireflies. Rion forced his way through debris, his armor melting at the seams. Inside he found the Empress Virile, pinned beneath a fallen beam. Her breath was shallow. Her golden eyes flickered with shock, not at the pain but at seeing a human reach for her. "Leave me," she rasped. "You'll die here, Terran." "Not yet, Your Majesty," Rion grunted, lifting the beam with every ounce of strength in his augmented frame. "Humans don't die until the job's done." The Empress was carried out of the wreckage alive. Rion collapsed beside her, armor charred black. When Aurelia found them, she stared in disbelief, the man she mocked lying broken, his body shielding her mother from shrapnel. For the first time, she couldn't summon a single cruel word. Chapter 4. The Emperor's Trial. The Empress survived, barely. The Virellian council demanded vengeance. The Krell Dominion had broken the truce, but their attack had been aided by someone inside the empire. Suspicion fell everywhere, even upon humanity. Rion was imprisoned under palace arrest, accused of treachery. Virellia didn't defend him. Not yet. But when she visited his cell, she found him standing at attention, as if still on duty. "You saved my mother," she said quietly. "Why?" "Because she was in danger," Rion answered simply. "Doesn't matter whose flag she flies. You're her enemy. I'm a soldier. We protect the living. That's what makes us human." Something in his tone struck her. Not arrogance, not defiance. Just conviction. Virellia began to doubt her empire's righteousness. Days later she uncovered the truth. The traitor was Lord Zevran, her mother's war minister, who sought to reignite the war for profit. But by the time she discovered it, Zevran's forces had already surrounded the capital. And Rion Hale was still locked in a cell. Chapter 5. The Siege of Silverlight. The skies burned again. Hundreds of Dominion warships and Zevran's rebels descended on the palace. The city of Silverlight turned into a battlefield. Virellia stood in her armor, torn between pride and desperation. The palace guard was outnumbered 10-1. Then she heard the alarms in the dungeon cut off. A voice on the comms barked. "Lieutenant Hale, Terran Marines. Reporting for duty." He had escaped or been allowed to escape. Within an hour, Rion had organized the surviving guards into a defensive unit. His voice was steel and purpose. "You don't win by numbers," he told them. "You win by will." Virellia joined him on the ramparts. He handed her a pulse rifle. "Ever fired one of these, Princess?" "I've commanded armies, human." "Good. Then command this one." For 3 days they fought side by side. Human tactics, guerrilla maneuvers, choke points, collapsing tunnels, turned the tide. The rebels fell back, confused by a war they didn't understand. Virellia began to see him differently, not as an animal, but as something terrifyingly resolute. Chapter 6. The Cost of Honor. On the 4th day, the rebels breached the inner gate. The Empress, still weak, refused to flee. Virellia stood by her, blade drawn. Then Rion appeared, his armor cracked, helmet gone, eyes burning like a man possessed. "They're through the walls," he said. "I'll hold them." "You can't," Virellia whispered. "There are hundreds. Then it'll be a long day for them." He turned to leave, but Virellia grabbed his arm. "Why? Why do you keep fighting for us?" He looked at her, really looked, and said, "Because once you mocked me for being human. Let me show you what that means." He walked into the throne corridor alone. Chapter 7. The Human Stand. They say the last stand of Lieutenant Rion Hale lasted 47 minutes. He fought through 7 waves of armored elites. When his rifle failed, he used his sidearm. When that failed, he fought with his hands. The Virellian guards watched from the shattered balconies as the human tore through soldiers 3 times his size, refusing to yield. Every time he was knocked down, he rose again. Every time he bled, he struck harder. By the end, his armor was gone, his body broken, but the palace still stood. The rebels fled in terror, whispering that the Terran was a machine of war, a god in flesh. When Virellia reached him, he was slumped against the throne steps, breathing shallowly. "You won," she said through tears. "No," he murmured. "We did." She took his hand, the hand she once mocked, and held it as his breathing faded. Chapter 8. Bow before him. Days later, the Empress recovered enough to attend the ceremony. The rebellion had been crushed. The empire was saved by a human. The court gathered beneath the broken dome of the throne hall. The empress rose, supported by her daughter. Before the assembled nobles, she declared, "The empire of Virel owes its life to Lieutenant Rion Hale of Earth. Let it be known, the blood of humanity has paid for our peace." Then she turned to her daughter. "Virellia, kneel. Mother, bow before him." Virellia sank to her knees before the soldier's memorial, a polished helm resting on a marble pillar. For the first time her voice trembled. "I mocked you," she whispered. "But you showed me what it means to be worthy of fear and of respect." The entire court followed, bowing before the statue of the fallen human. In that moment the galaxy shifted. Humanity was no longer the upstart species. They were the ones who would not die, who would not kneel, even before empires. Epilogue. The legacy of Rion Hale. Years later, a new alliance formed between Earth and Virellia, the Silver Accord. Its flag bore two symbols, a Terran eagle and a Virelian star intertwined. Princess Virellia became its ambassador, known across the stars as the voice of two worlds. But those who saw her alone in the Hall of Heroes would sometimes hear her whisper to the statue of the human soldier, "If courage had a name, it would be yours." And on the base of the statue, engraved in both human and Virelian script, were the words that changed the stars. "Bow before none, but honor all."